Hello you guys, welcome back. She Loves God here. Today's video is on the topic of the pre-tribulation rapture. The pre-tribulation rapture. Now I'm not going to go back and define a whole bunch of stuff because, if you're watching this video, you should already know what this stuff is. Because I want to get a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. So I'm not going to go back and define everything. So you need to, have a background knowledge of, end time views. Pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, post-tribulation. You need to know what the tribulation is, what the rapture is, the second coming is. So first of all, in this video, I think it's important that we know what we believe and why we believe it and who made us believe in it and where did it start, when did it start, why did it start, how did it start. We need to know if what we believe can be traced back to this right here. Is what we're believing and what we're teaching in our churches, can it be traced back to this book? The meaning, is it something that the early church, the first century church, believed in? Now, I was raised to believe in pre-tribulation rapture, and I'm sure many of you guys were as well. And so I was kind of shocked when I had 2 or 3 friends of mine confronted me, and they said, you know what you're believing is not true. You know that pre-tribulation stuff is made up, it's false. And so I want to find out for myself. I'm not going to just take your word for it. This is something I've been believing in for 20-something years. I want to make sure I do my research. So I did my research, and I want to share with you guys what what our research showed me. Like I said, I have a lot to share in a short amount of time. So without further ado, first we're going to cover the why. We're going to cover, what, when, how, why, all those question words. First part is we're going to cover why. Now, why is the pre-tribulation rapture being taught? Why? Why was it started? If it didn't start in the first century church, the first centuries of the church, the early church we read about in the Bible with, Apostle Paul and Peter and all those people, if it didn't start with them, if it wasn't taught by them, why is it being taught today? So I think it's important for us to go back and ask ourselves, why did this start? Now, first of all, I think you all need to know a little bit of something about something you've heard of, I'm sure, the Protestant Reformation. You've heard of Luther King, not Martin Luther King Jr., not Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but you heard of Martin Luther. And he's an Augustinian monk. Named Martin Luther. That's who Martin Luther King Jr. was named after, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he nailed his 95 theses to the wall. His 95 theses to a wall of a church in Germany. And it was basically him letting the Roman Catholic Church know that the stuff that they were teaching and doing was not biblical. It was not godly. It was not true biblical Christianity. Now, I'm sure you've also heard of the Holy Inquisitions. You heard of that. They say about tens of thousands to millions of people were killed during the Holy Inquisitions by the Roman Catholic Church. And that was between the year 1540 through 1700. This was all carried out by the Roman Catholic Church. Now you may wonder, okay, the Augustinian monk Martin Luther, he nailed this thesis to the wall. What was going on? Why did this Protestant Reformation go on? This Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther was a part of this Protestant Reformation. So you need to ask yourselves, why? Why is the Reformation? What is the Reformation? What's going on here? The Protestant Reformation was basically when a lot of Catholics, a lot of Roman Catholics, they were Catholics at one point. They started to realize that the Roman Catholic Church was a mixture of, it had elements of Babylonian sun god worship. I believe that sun god name is Mithras, god of the unconquerable sun. If you look at some of the Catholic people's paintings, you will see that they have a lot of their pictures have halos around their heads. You'll notice they have halos around their head like that, and that's them honoring, sun god worship. And I want to show you a picture here. This is one picture here. You have often seen pictures of all the biblical characters, and they have a little halo around their head. Now you may wonder, why is that there? No, and it's not just this picture. There's plenty of pictures like this. Plenty of them have it on there. So that's one reason the Protestant Reformation started because people realized there was a lot of Babylonian sun god worship. Another reason was because they noticed that they had a lot of paganism. Now the word pagan, it just means country or rustic or whatever. But the way we mean it is somebody who believe, who's polytheistic. They believe in multiple gods. We know in the Greco-Roman culture, they had all those different gods. You all know their names. You learn about it in Greek mythology. So they believe that the Roman Catholics were, they were being paganistic. Seemed like they were worshiping multiple gods. Also, they didn't like that the Protestant Reformation. The Protestants didn't like how the Roman Catholics were deifying and worshiping Mary. You know how they worship the Virgin Mary. You notice that they always have an air freshener or a candle or something of this, a statue, a necklace of something of the Saint Mary, which is unbiblical. And some people say that it was actually just Isis. I'm not sure if it's Egyptian or I'm not sure where it's Egyptian, Greek, Roman, or Babylonian. I'm not sure. But it's a goddess named Isis, and they believe that they were just pretending they were worshiping Mary, but they were actually trying to worship Isis. And I think they called Mary God of Heaven, so they didn't like that either. And also, and they also had witchcraft in there. It wasn't just paganism and sun god worship. They also had witchcraft in there. And they also had Judaism. They had Old Testament Judaic stuff, all that clergyman stuff, all that, worship the Pope and the priest and all that stuff. That's not in the Bible for the church. That wasn't the Old Testament, but the Christian church didn't do all that stuff. All that clergy versus layman stuff, that's not the Bible for the Christians in the New Testament. And also they had tainted Christianity. They did have some Christianity, there was some Christianity in there, but it was all tainted. And so a lot of Catholics were leaving. They said millions of Roman Catholics were leaving Roman Catholicism because of all this stuff they were seeing wrong in there. And so, they started to expose the Roman Catholic Church. They were exposing the evil that was going on in there. And so because of that, because the Roman Catholics wanted to maintain control, they decided to do this Holy Inquisitions from 1540 through 1700. And they were trying to silence the Protestant Reformation. They would torture them, kill them. Most people think, just witches were killed during that time, or people who they thought were witches. No, they killed Protestants. If you were not a Catholic, they would kill you. So even Protestants, people who used to be Catholics, who were still Christians, they were burned alongside with the witches, burned at the stake, burned with their Bibles, because at that time, the Roman Catholic Church, they didn't want Christians having access to Bibles. So the Bibles were only translated from, Hebrew to Latin, and then from Greek to Latin. And only, the educated, learned clergymen knew how to read the Bible. But some people, I believe one guy named Wycliffe, I think there's actually a Wycliffe Bible version, and he tried to translate it from Greek to English and Hebrew to English so that regular laymen people could read it. And he was burned at the stake for doing that. Because that's how controlling the Roman Catholic Church was. The papacy, they didn't want other people having access to the Bible. So the Roman Catholics, they were out of order. They were out of control. And like I said, millions of people were leaving Roman Catholicism, and that was scaring them. They didn't like that. They didn't like losing all their control. And so they implemented the Holy Inquisitions, where they killed tens of thousands to millions of people who would not be Roman Catholics. Now, so you all see the why. You see their motive. You see their motive here was to, in order to, squash out any opposition and everything. And the main thing you need to know about the why is that the Protestants were accusing the Roman Catholic Church of being the Antichrist spoken about in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. That's the main reason they try to shut them up. Because the Protestants were realizing the Roman Catholics, they have a striking resemblance to the Antichrist. And the Roman Catholics and the Pope, they didn't like that. They didn't like being likened to the Antichrist. Who wants to be compared to the Antichrist? So they definitely had to kill thousands to millions of people in order to shut up that belief that people were having. And so that is the why. The motive behind the pre-tribulation teaching. In video 2, I will tell you all I would tell you all the details of how they carry this out. I told you the why. Now I'm going to get into the how. So look for part 2. Thank you.